Did you grow up in Chile? Were you born in Chile?
I was born in Peru.
Oh, I thought Peru. Then when you mentioned Chile, I thought it was Peru. I thought you grew up in Peru.
No, I grew up in both countries. As a child in Peru, because my parents are Peruvian, and I went to an English school there. And when I was 11, my dad got a job in Chile. So he got a transfer there.
What did he do? Was he an international?
He was the director of a cosmetics company, like makeup and toiletries and stuff like that. So he got a better job in Chile, and that's why
So the whole family moved
to Chile.
Over there.
Yes, and then I went to an English school there as well. And when I finished...
Do you remember much about the move? Because that's quite... I mean, it's not like moving schools. It's moving schools, moving countries, leaving friends behind.
It wasn't as bad for me as for my sisters, because I was only 11. So I hadn't come to that age when you've kind of, you haven't got your network of friends as you do when you're a teen yet.
And your sisters are older?
And my sisters were older, so they were, teenagers with friends and boyfriends, so it was harder for them to give that up. I kind of miss my friends as well, but when you're 10, 11, it's not the same. You kind of get used to different things more quickly, I think, than when you're a teen. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't too bad. I made new friends quickly.
So then you stayed in Chile until you came to Spain? Is that what happened? I mean, you went to university in Chile?
I went to university in Britain. So when I finished school in Chile, again, I was in two minds whether to go to university in Chile and do, I think, a psychology degree I wanted to do, or to go to the UK and do English literature, which I was very much into at the time.
So were you like 18 then?
I was 18, yes. And I finished school in December 1994, because it's different over there, you see, because the summer holidays are in January and February. So I finished school in 94, and then I had a kind of half a year, because I had to wait for, the academic year at university in Britain to start in October 1995.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I just, while my friends went to university, I went to French academy to learn French, and to German academy to learn German.
How was your English at that point?
At that point, it was very good, but I think, it improved a lot, living in Britain and doing an English literature degree.
You were studying English literature?
Yeah.
So
of course, I got to read loads of books and, And as
but did you get the chance to speak English in Chile?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the school I went to was English. British.
Okay, it was an English
school.
So you were taught in English?
I was in a primary school. It was all in English, and then in secondary school it was a mix of Spanish and English. Mm-hmm. So, for example, drama was in English. Other subjects that I didn't take were in English, and then other subjects like history or chemistry or biology were in Spanish.
Okay.
So it was a bit of a mix.
Okay, so you went. So was it in Santiago where you
Santiago,
went?
yeah.
Okay. So then you went from Santiago to the UK, and where did you go to university in the UK?
I went to the University of York.
York.
I'd applied to 4 universities, and they all accepted me. And I thought York, I don't know why, but I think it's because of the pictures of the prospectus. Had a lovely river and city walls and, medieval gates and all that. So
probably matched some of the books you'd been reading back in Chile.
Probably.
Did you know anyone in the UK when you went there?
Well, I'd been to the UK the year before, or 2 years before that, on a drama tour with my drama group from Santiago, because our drama director was Irish and he had some contacts in the UK and in Ireland as well. Mm-hmm. So we organised this drama tour in 1993, and we'd been to the UK touring different places and acting in different, public theatres. So that was fun. I didn't know anybody per se. I just, I'd been there and I kind of fallen in love with, the UK, and that's why I wanted to go to the UK when I finished school. So that's why I told my parents, how about if I go to university in Britain? My mum was horrified.
Were they happy with that?
Well, my mum didn't want to let me go because mums are mums.
Yeah.
And she thought I was too young. My dad was in two minds. He thought, well, it's perhaps good for your education, definitely. But of course, he was kind of, a tug at war with my mum, not to let me go. But I think my dad made the right decision, and he said, right, if he wants to go, let him go, and I'll, support him.
Okay.
So that's how I left, and that's how my travel started.
So you went to the UK, so you went to university, and then you got involved in acting a little bit.
Well, that was at school, and then at university, I think I just did one play at university. It was a musical, cabaret.
Did you sing?
And I sang and I danced and cavorted on stage. That was fun. That was good fun, and it got good reviews as well. But I hadn't done any kind of, full-on acting as I had at school, But I think after that, I decided, right, so what do I want to do with my life after, university? And that's when I decided to go to drama school.
Okay.
And do a postgraduate diploma in acting. And I thought, well, let's see if I can be a professional actor once and for all.
And why did you make the change from acting to teaching? What happened there?
Well, because after I finished my postgraduate diploma at LAMDA, it was the London Academy for Music and Dramatic Art, while I was looking for jobs, acting jobs, I still had to kind of find other jobs to tide me over. So I found this job as an usher in a West End theatre where they were playing Cats. I remember every Cat song from having listened to.
I suppose you knew them off by heart, working every day.
Definitely. And then, but then I kind of got bored with that job, so I thought, well, how about doing some teaching? Because while I was at university, I'd done the CELTA, which is the certificate in English language teaching.
Why did
to
you do
adults.
that? Did you have the idea of travelling?
Well, yes, because I thought, well, what's a good way of getting a job after university? I didn't know, what I wanted to do. So I'd heard from a friend of mine at uni that she'd done this course, and she said, well, you can get teaching jobs,
But was the idea to maybe get a teaching job in the UK, or
Exactly.
maybe use it to travel with?
No, I thought about the UK first. I thought, well, it might be, a good way to kind of prolong my stay, because my parents were expecting me to go back, and I didn't want to go back.
You're having a good time, you wanted to stay there. So tell us what happened when you left the UK and how you arrived in Spain. Why Valencia? Why Spain?
So, well, after I taught for 3 years, I think, at this language school in Hampstead in London. And then I'd met, I was living at the time with this Spanish bloke from Valencia in London. It's a long story. Do you want me to tell you the long story?
No, make it short.
Make it short. Well, basically, I moved. I was living somewhere else in London, and I moved into this flat for various reasons. And that's where I met my friend from Valencia. And he said, "Oh, would you like to come over for Fires?" I didn't know what Fires was. And he said, "Oh, this is a very rowdy, festival we have every year."
So you had no idea to come to Spain before you'd met and heard about Spain from him?
Well, no. I'd been to Spain before because at university I met Spanish people. And I'd been to Barcelona, and I'd been to Madrid.
And you spoke Spanish? So
and I spoke Spanish. So, I'd been to Spain quite a few times before, but I'd never been to Valencia because I'd never known anyone from Valencia. So this was first, he was the first person I'd met from Valencia, and he said, "Would you like to come over for Fire?" So I did. And I felt head over heels in love with Valencia, and that was my kind of
But you
romance.
realised it wasn't like that all year. It was something like that 5 days of the year.
Yes, but still, I thought it was a great kind of, people were so friendly, and, it was a completely different, kettle of fish from London. And because of, the cultural similarity with South America, I thought, well, how about, trying it out in Spain for a change, I kind of got a bit tired of, the cold in London and, the rat race and,
Did you apply to the British Council straight away, or did you come here?
No, I didn't even know the council existed. I kind of, surfed the web before coming over for language schools in Valencia, but the British Council never popped up in my searches. So I kind of heard of other language schools, but not the council. And then one day I just arrived in Valencia. I saw this ad at one of the metro stations, British Council, English courses, and I thought, oh well, it's another language school I hadn't heard of. And I didn't know it was, this multinational company,
You thought that this was it, it's just one.
So I sent them my CV, and I got an interview, and I got a job. And that's.
And how long have you been here? How many years?
10 years now.
10 years.
Yes.
What's been the most difficult thing about making a life here? Are your family still in Chile?
My family are still my parents are still in Chile, but they're, thinking of moving back to Peru soon. One of my sisters lives in Switzerland, my other sister lives in Peru, and she's married with 4 kids.
Would you say that's the most difficult thing about living here, being so far from your immediate
I wouldn't say
family?
it's difficult. I'm used to kind of living away from my family now, and I see them every year. Of course, I miss them from time to time. I don't think that's the most difficult thing.
You didn't have that. Many people have said the language. You didn't have that problem.
No, I didn't have that problem. I don't know really. I don't find it difficult living in Spain. The thing is, after a while, you don't feel like you kind of belong anywhere, because you left your home country, when you were very young, and then whenever you go back there, you've got a different accent and a different attitude and a different outlook on things. And even the people who live there, don't think that you are from that country, which
so
is
you're kind of
very
in no man's
frustrating.
land. I know,
exactly.
I feel the same, because I've been travelling since I was 20 and living in different countries, and I don't really have a strong identity anywhere anymore. And I feel like a tourist when I go back to London, which is weird, but I don't really feel I belong here.
Yeah.
I totally understand.
The thing is, I was determined, when I moved from London to make this place my home, I mean, of course things change, and maybe you get a job elsewhere, or you have to go back, or, life works in mysterious ways, and you never know where you're going to end up. But I think that, if you feel at ease with, your job and where you live and the people you know, I think you can make a perfectly good life.
And after 10 years, do you feel that? Do you feel that comfortable here?
I feel very comfortable, yes, I have to say. I wouldn't leave Valencia for another job at the moment.
Do you still enjoy teaching as much as you did 10 years ago?
I do. I think I enjoy it more now than I used to, because before I was thinking, will I ever go back into acting or not? And then people say, oh, you must be a frustrated actor. And it's like, well, at the beginning perhaps I felt like one, but not anymore. And now I just know I've changed. Definitely. I just feel I've changed vocation now, and I've learned a new trade, and which is as valuable, as acting.
So Nelson, as a teacher, what advice would you give Spanish speakers who are trying to learn English?
Read. That's the first thing I'd say. Read. Get interested in the culture and in the literature, American, British, Australian, Irish, wherever. Read books, read novels, read plays. If you have the possibility of being involved in a drama group, then do, because that really improves your level in terms of vocabulary, in terms of listening and speaking, in terms of pronunciation. And it's a fun way of learning the language. And if you have the chance of going and living abroad for a stint, then do so as well. Because living in the country is really what makes you really fluent.
What do you do with your free time when you're not working?
Oh, well, I eat.
Do you cook?
I cook, yes. I like cooking. I like going to restaurants. I like, having a good bottle of wine sometimes. I like going out with friends to the cinema, to the countryside wherever possible. I like hiking. And maybe sometimes, staying at home, watching a good film or reading a good book is enough.
Okay. Since I've known you, you've been travelling pretty much every year. You've been to some incredible places.
True.
Of the countries you've visited, which one has made the strongest impression on you?
I think perhaps because it was a new thing for me, was the first summer school I went on, which was Damascus. That was the first British Council summer school I went on.
That was obviously before the trouble. started there?
That was before that, yeah, of course. That was back in, I think it was 2004. That was the first time I went on a summer school with the British Council. And it really, surprised me, how people can be so friendly and so kind and so generous. You just made friends really easily with people in the street.
The Quickfire Hot Seat.
Okay, Nelson, now we move on to the Quickfire Hot Seat questions. So I'm going to ask you a series of very quick questions.
Right.
Just tell me what you think.
Okay.
What makes you happy?
Love.
What makes you sad?
People in trouble, or people having a hard time.
What one thing, if you were to tell someone about yourself, would they find it difficult to believe?
Say that again?
What one thing, if you were to tell somebody about yourself,
Yes.
would they possibly find it difficult to believe? Maybe something you've done or something you experienced, or something that would surprise somebody.
Well, sometimes when I tell people I'm not a native speaker of English, they find it hard to believe.
Would you say you're bilingual? Purely bilingual?
Perhaps, yeah.
I
still make mistakes in both languages. So.
If you choose to read a book purely for enjoyment, which language would you choose?
I tend to read in English.
Okay. So you have two books, one in Spanish, one in English. You'd choose the English one because you'd be more comfortable with it?
No, I think it would depend on the author and the level of interest that I have in that particular book. I don't know. I also, if I can read the book, if it's it's written by a Spanish author, then I would tend to read it in the original language rather than in translation. So if it was Mario Vargas Llosa, I'd read it in Spanish. But if it was Dickens, I'd read it in English. Yeah.
That sounds pretty bilingual to me. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
If you could change something about your character, what would you change?
My character. Maybe being a little bit more patient, perhaps. I don't know. I don't tend to explode. But sometimes I take things for granted, which I shouldn't take.
You do seem very relaxed and very calm. You don't seem a nervous person.
No. I think I've kind of, developed that side of my personality as a teacher, to be patient with students and people in general. Perhaps with my family or, close relatives, I might tend to be a little bit less patient.
I think that affects all of us. And finally, Nelson, if you had 6,000 euros to spend on yourself, what would you buy?
How much?
6,000 euros
6,000?
to spend only on you.
I would buy a ticket somewhere.
I thought you would say that. Where would you go?
I don't know, maybe this...
Because you've been pretty much everywhere, especially in Asia and
maybe
Far
Japan,
East, Middle East.
Perhaps. I'd like to go to Japan. I'd like to go to India and Nepal. And maybe...
Have you been to China?
I have, yes. But not Japan. So... and perhaps North Korea would be an interesting place to see as well. With your own eyes.
Doesn't appeal to me. South Korea, yes.
Yes.
North Korea.
I don't know, just to see what it's like there,
Yeah. Well, good luck.
Yes.
Nelson, thank you very much.
Thanks to you. And she thought I was too young. My dad was in two minds. He thought, well, different, kettle of fish from London. Got a bit tired of, you know, the cold in London and, you know, the rat race and, you know.
Did you?
But sometimes I take things for granted, which I shouldn't take.